Ranger sold his wardrobe. The Lone Ranger sold his bad dog. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know, 'cause times change, I know.
On some days, he's more than humble. On some days, he's cold and mad, mad as hell. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know. It's so strange. Well, I know. Those lakes of golden water, those lakes of gold are all running out. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know. It's so strange. Well, I know. Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder, sure as the hours. Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder, you say. On some days, he's more than humble. On some days, he's cold and mad, mad as hell. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know. It's so strange. Well, I know. Those lakes of golden water, those lakes of gold are all running out. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know. It's so strange. Well, I know. Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder, sure as the hours. Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder, you say. Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder, sure as the hours. Joy, joy, joy. Work, work, work harder, you say.
Come along, join the fun, in a world where adventure is never done. Every corner we turn, a new friend in tow. It's time to start the magic on the Globus Show. It's time to learn and grow on the Globus Show. See the sights, so much to know. Across the lands, together we go. Hand in hand we join the flow. Discover wonders in the Globus Show, where every day's a brand new episode. the magic on the Globus Show. It's time to learn and grow on the Globus Show. See the sights, so much to know across the land. Together we go, hand in hand we join the flow. Discover wonders in the Globus Show, where every day's a brand new episode on the Globus Show. It's time to learn and grow on the Globus Show.
What up, what up, what up, what up, what up? What up, Twitch? What up, Larry? What up, Hey Pretty One? What up, Anti-War Machine? What up, bots? What up, lurkers? What up, tiny people in my chatterino? It's your boy. It's your boy. Do what you want to do. Alrighty then. Yeah, nothing really to talk about, so let's get right into it. Starting off with Lil Kelly Bosch, an AI animated story.
The world, they said, was stitched together by threads of what was once. But the lighthouse keeper knew it was all just a collection of borrowed sight. On the edge of a shivering sea, he would watch the old eyes rise from the depths, their gaze a question on a day of endless grey. He learned to speak to the roots, the ones that anchor and those that simply drift. And he learned that some people, like some places, are tethered only to the thought of themselves. A lonely island above an invisible ocean. He would listen to the crows, those silent messengers who carried secrets in their yellow eyes, and wonder if anyone else noticed the ground was not really there at all. There were doors that weren't doors, and people who weren't people, who stood in rooms where the walls grew limbs. They told you to enter, but what they meant was to observe. The world was not made for movement, but for stillness. For the watching of things that should not be, until they simply were.
The world's quiet observers were a strange sort. Some carried their gardens on their backs, a fragile purpose in an uncertain world. Others bore the weight of their homes, following a forgotten road for no clear reason. They held their teacups not for comfort, but to measure the quiet, and they danced a silent two-person waltz with the wind. They were not lost, but simply waiting for a story that was not yet ready to be told. They had all come from somewhere, though no one remembered where. A strange pilgrimage toward a house on a hill. They were the ones who carried the seeds of something different. The ones who stood still while the world hurried by. And in the stillness, they knew that every burden carried, every step taken, was simply a prelude to the moment when the doors would open, and their purpose, long dormant, would finally be revealed.
Some researchers had the tiny human
Hold
brain.
on. So yeah, again, Kelly Bosch is fantastic, and you just have to keep reminding yourself that people who use AI aren't actually being creative, because all the evidence would indicate the contrary. So you have to just keep reminding yourself of that. Hello, sir. No? We're still doing this thing? Next are for showtime. No show, no go. All right. Let's get back to talking about the tiny brains.
Some researchers had the tiny human brains you can grow from stem cells train each other by giving them either reward or punishment until they behave normally. This is indeed really weird. Yes, you can grow tiny human brains from stem cells. Yes, you can have them run computation. And yes, they can interact with each other. You can even put them together like Legos and they'll act as one unit. It's just more brain per brain. Because they tend to work better when they're in groups, they are also tasked with training each other. They have relatively short lives, although some people have been able to keep them alive for a year
What up, Red Hobbit?
or more. Most of them live 60 to 90 days, so if you have 16 to a chip like some companies are doing, you're going to need to have the old ones come in and train the new ones. That's what they did. They set them up in groups of 3. There was a doctor agent that would monitor a healthy agent, and that would tell it what normalcy looks like. Then they would look at a patient agent. This might be one that's displaying some unusual behaviors, or it could be a brand new one in the system. It would deliver rewards if it were behaving appropriately, and it would deliver something like disordered electric shocks if it wasn't. Yes, it could in fact train the new agent pretty effectively. And if you're wondering how they're communicating with the computer, well, they're on a multi-electrode array. This is something that can record neural spiking patterns and then deliver feedback so that the brain organoid knows what's going on around it. It's kind of a form of sensation. It's actually not that different from what you have going on with your own body. You have sensation, you have light hitting your eyes, that's being translated into electrical signals that your brain can receive, and your brain will sort it out so it's meaningful. Similarly, the electrical signals are sorted by a computer, so it can be given to the brain organoids so they can decipher it. They did something similar with a card game, where organoids would be players, and then they would have a judge. The judge would look at what the players got and decide whether to give them a reward or a punishment. They respond to both, so they do naturally progress forward, trying to win the game. Rewards for brain organoids can include things like dopamine or just ordered signals, or in some of the papers that I've read with embodying them in game world, they will give them continuous, unpleasant electric shocks until they do something right, and then they get peace from the hellscape. But from what I've read, they
Again, to Larry's point, they're just like us for real.
tend to do better with both reward and punishment rather than one
What up, Cosmic?
or the other. One of the interesting findings that's been seen in several different labs is that complex brain organoids do better. You would think that just one type of cell would be appropriate. Maybe we had one kind of cell in our brain that's responsible for cognition, but no. They need ones that are involved in both short-term and long-term memory. And brain organoids tend to do better when they have some kind of feedback. It's a literal brain in a vat. So having some stimulation is going to allow the little organoids to do something. They have a job, they can grow around that job, and they can get better at it. They're not conscious. They may be sentient, and that is an argument, but they're just floods of brain, and I think they're really cool and kind of spooky, but I don't think what we're seeing yet is real cognition. The simulations are quite complex. It's a biohybrid computer. It's working between AI and the actual tissue. I think the message behind it is that when we have brain organoids that are coming in to do a job, new ones can be trained by the older ones. I don't think this has a whole lot of applications of human medicine, but I don't know. We can find out. This is really exciting.
First, AI created viruses are dividing in cells.
We're one step closer to making AI-generated life as researchers make the first AI-generated virus. That might sound slightly scary, but I'll explain. You might recognize these guys from high school biology. They're bacteriophages, and they're one of my research areas. I study evolution in phages. They modeled their AI generation around a phage that infects
What up, Hydron?
E. coli. Then they let the AI design something that could functionally impact E. coli. The AI came up with hundreds of different phages, 16 of which were actually effective. Some of them used mechanisms not in the evolutionary line of that phage at all, so they're totally novel. Mechanisms that E. coli have to overcome Some of them used mechanisms not in the evolutionary line of that phage at all, so they're totally novel. Mechanisms that E. coli have to overcome the original phage are not effective on these AI-made ones. Now, this might sound like it could go down a dark direction, and yeah, that's possible too, but do understand bacteriophages are much simpler than ones that impact eukaryotes like us. Now, why are we excited for this? There's a problem with getting antibiotics to market, and there's some conditions which are incurable that you would preferably want to be curable. Bacteriophages have always been considered as a potential therapy for bacterial infections, but it's never been terribly effective. After all, bacteria are made to overcome their phages. If you could design one specifically for that bacteria, even more so one that it is very unlikely to overcome because it may overcome ones that it's familiar with. You could design something that could be created quickly that could also knock out infections. Of course, there's a whole lot that it's going to have to go through first. Not kidding, it does have to go through clinical trials, but it's another tool in our tool belt to fight something that mankind has been fighting for thousands of years. This could be the start of a whole new era in antibiotic treatments. Did you know that the very first treatment for syphilis was actually malaria? Yes, they utilized another pathogen that caused a high fever in order to allow the body to knock out the syphilis. So having biological entities interact is not entirely new to medicine. In the situation we currently have, it takes a very long time for treatments to actually get to market. It's extraordinarily expensive and it's not very profitable once it gets there. It's not something that people are going to be using continuously for a long period. We need to come up with new mechanisms to get antibiotics to market, and using AI is one of them, not just for designing phages, but for designing antibiotics that can target resistant microbes. This is
He has chosen to join us, so we're going to take a break now. And give some Stampy snacks. What up, Chef? There's nothing else in my hand, sir. Chewing my finger will not get you more treats. You show him the face? Good job. Good job. He's a good boy. All right.
an area where AI really excels at, and I think it's an ethical and effective way to use it. There is, of course, a very scary aspect of this is just the start, and what else can people do with AI to design these kinds of biological entities? But being able to create things that are this targeted this quickly, yeah, I could see that going very wrong. So what do you think? Designing viruses a good thing or a bad thing, or somewhere in between? My personal opinion is that I have high hopes for technology, but rarely is it ever used in exclusively good ways. nefarious. There could be nefarious uses for it. Some next steps will be designing genomes for whole organisms, which is already in the works. Follow, like, subscribe, whatever, if you want more. I'm always talking about this stuff. Artificial neurons can be
And then finally, to wrap up this segment, synthetic nervous systems interface with humans, robots, and cyborgs.
created using carbon materials. They can guide neurons to regenerate, or they can be used to give robots sensation. They operate very much like a neuron carrying electrical potential across it, but they don't need to be interfaced with biological components. We'll talk about it. Part of the problem when it comes to regenerating neurons is that the signal is cut, meaning even if they were to somehow reconnect the neurons, it wouldn't be transporting signals, so nothing's there to guide them. Because things like graphene have a great amount of conductivity, they can provide a bridge and teach the old neurons how to bridge the gap and allow them to grow. Essentially, they're stimulating them and showing them how to grow. While the graphene bridge works pretty well all on its own, it's always best to have something biological to grow with it. It's also the same reason why people have been using graphene to interface with brain organoids, the tiny human brains you can grow from stem cells. In order to communicate with them, you're going to have something that is conductive. Graphene can translate something like touch directly into electricity, which our nerves can perceive. It's also been used for stuff like taste and sight, which we saw with brain organoids piloting the dog robot. While prosthetics and regenerative medicine is a huge part of this field, these can also be used to recreate sensation. That could allow a robot to move much more naturally, be able to perceive things like pain or subtle differences in texture. That's going to be very important if we have humanoid robots taking over human roles in society. They're going to have to live in the same world that we do. Using something that's able to translate something like sensation directly into electrical activities that could be perceived by a robot, or better yet, an actual brain, drastically reduce the time it takes to translate an experience. It will, of course, need to be set up just like our own nerve endings, which can carry electrical potential. It will also need to be insulated. And of course, having this technology will help us understand how to do things like insulate our own neurons, which could be used as treatments for conditions which degrade the insulation. There's a whole hell of a lot of technology that can come out of just this one thing. Being able to tune these materials is important for both robotics and prosthetics. If you have a replacement hand,
What up, Pharaoh?
and you don't want it to be hypersensitive to everything. Unfortunately, they can be tuned. You also don't want your robot freaking out because it's feeling hypersensitive either. I really appreciate that we're getting to the point where robotics and medicine are colliding, where a nervous system could be used for humans or it could be used for our creations. We're not quite there yet. We're not at the point of making a robot that has the same feelings as a human. We may never be there, but we are taking the first steps towards making something that mimics humanity really well. What is the purpose of having a robot that can taste or smell stuff? I actually don't know the answer to that one. If you do, let me know. I had an argument with somebody last night about whether we could ever achieve consciousness. We can, achieve sentience. There's a good deal of argument about whether brain organoids are sentient, whether or not they're really having an experience, if they're capable of a preference. That is, a preference for ordered signals versus disorder, and they certainly enjoy dopamine, though some consider them sentient, along with, their ability to learn and play video games and pathfind their way through mazes, or understand Braille or language. But others think that you can't really apply that to something that isn't, biological. Well, I mean, they're biological. Normal biological? Natural biological? Consciousness would be the abstract perception of self, and that is a very difficult thing to demonstrate. I think we could get there. However, I would say that even if we made a one-to-one scale model of a brain made of brain organoids and popped it in a robot, no one is ever going to agree that that is conscious.
And that's ultimately the problem. Is that there will be self-interested parties who will not consider the robot to be conscious, whether the robot is conscious or not being almost irrelevant at that point.
There'll always be a controversy on it. I think the same thing could be said if we made a scale model of the brain out of artificial neurons. Even if it could behave very much like a person, some people would just never accept it. Well, what do you think?
Okay, so yesterday we watched an arc fault electrical fire. So now I'm getting these videos in my in my homepage on YouTube. But I thought that this one might be interesting. It's 65,000 amps. 65,000 amps. And that is a mannequin standing in for a person. And we're going to do a 65,000 amp arc fault test. Let's go. This is it. You're just done. Now, I assume they're going to give it to us in slow motion or something. What up, Tenacious Liege? Here we go. Yep, it just blew the mannequin to pieces. What up, Van Briggs? Of course they're broken. Why would they be fixed? Why would... Hold your horses. Why would this website function in its appropriate manner? I use their friggin' alerts, right? Like that's the whole thing. I use their alerts, and their alerts are the alerts that are not working. Introducing Sora 2.
Ladies and gentlemen, with a cat as Proton.
花火綺麗だね。でも僕たちは少し
Yeah, I was in Red's stream this morning, and I just didn't want to update right before stream. You know what I mean? So I will update after stream and go from there. It's Mr. Do. Tenacious Liege. That face, that's Mr. Do. Mr. Do is my favorite, is one of my all-time favorite arcade games. If you're not familiar with Mr. Do, are we working today?
All right, another Playing the Arcade, a classic game, Mr. Dog. It's like a 5-in-1. Can't go wrong with Mr. Do. So you shoot that ball out, and if you get this cheesecake, oh boy, oh, you're not really supposed to do that. That was stupid. Well, if you get the cheesecake, they turn into like, they freeze, and you can kill them with a little ball. Oh, baby. Oh, boy. He's on my booty. Nice.
That's Mr. Do. Mr. Do is fantastic.
Ready when you are. 3, 2, 1, go! Dude, you alright? I'm good.
Whoa, steady. Damn it!
Sora 2 announced today. Up next in the OpenAI block, OpenAI preps an AI TikTok app.
Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief Headlines Edition, all the daily AI news you need in around 5 minutes. We kick off today with the latest rumors out of OpenAI, where that company is expected to launch not only their next generation video model Sora 2, but also a social app for AI-generated video to go alongside it. There is actually a lot to unpack here. This is more than just a model release, so let's dig in. Sources speaking with the Wall Street Journal said that the model and its companion app would be arriving in the coming days. In fact, you might have noticed this set of new commercials that OpenAI dropped yesterday, seemingly as a marketing campaign. Some think that they are actually doing double duty, not just advertising ChatGPT, but sneakily showing off the video generation capabilities of the new Sora. Writes Mark Kretschmann, it certainly doesn't look generated, but some are arguing that Sora 2 could be indistinguishable from real video. Some broke down the video frame by frame and thought they found evidence it was AI generated. And what people are excited about is that each
Fucking nerds.
video appears to show camera motion that would be difficult, bordering on impossible, even if you were using a drone. In the second ad showing a man cooking Italian food for his date, we zoom out from an extreme close-up through a cluttered kitchen, out the window, and across the street. Summing up the feelings of many, software engineer Joelson Rebello wrote, if this really is...
No, you can absolutely do that with, like, old technology. Right? That's not... Because there used to be... I used to love that intro as a kid. I would get so excited for the movie. And then I would watch like Oliver, you know, that a movie that had like an intermission in it. I too enjoy being a nerd, Van Briggs, but for different reasons.
Sora 2, nothing will be the same anymore. Now, the scoop from Wired is that alongside the new Sora, OpenAI is poised to release a short-form video app powered by the new model. The app, which features a vertical video feed with swipe-to-scroll navigation, appears to closely resemble TikTok, except all of the content is AI-generated. There's a For You style page powered by a recommendation algorithm, On the right side of the feed, a menu bar gives users the option to like, comment, or remix a video. The app reportedly does not allow users to upload photos or videos, with the only source of content being Sora 2. However, users will be able to verify their likeness and have themselves appear in generated clips. Other users can also generate clips featuring verified likenesses, but users will receive a notification when clips featuring them are generated. Wired continued, OpenAI appears to be betting that the Sora 2 app will let people interact with AI-generated video in a way that fundamentally changes their experience of the technology, similar to how ChatGPT helped users realize the potential of AI-generated text. And apparently this is more than just showing off a technology, but also a business recognition of the opportunity of the moment. Wired continues, internally, sources say there's also a feeling that President Trump's on-again, off-again deal to sell TikTok's US operations has given OpenAI a unique opportunity to launch a short-form video app, particularly one without close ties to China. Now, not everyone is thrilled about this. In fact, there has been an explosive conversation around the lamentability of short-form brain rot ever since Meta announced its Vibes feed last week.
And we'll see, Larry. We'll see.
You'll remember I did a whole segment of an episode that was all about how much people did not like the idea of Meta having an AI video-only feed. Now, as OpenAI apparently gets ready to release something like this, we'll get to see how much of that was about the format versus how much of that was people just not liking Meta. Interestingly, in the wake of all of that controversy, OpenAI insider Rune had posted, "There is a moral panic around short-form video content in my opinion." He added that he understands the concern, but that he's just not certain that hours on TikTok are meaningfully different to hours in front of the TV. He said, "I basically agree with Postman on the nature of video and its corrupting influence on running a civilization well as opposed to text-based media. I'm just not sure that it's so much worse than being glued to your TV, and I'm definitely not sure that AI slop is worse than human slop." Ahmad Osman noted that Rune appeared to be breaking the narrative on X a few days ahead of this key announcement from OpenAI. With the report that we're getting this app from OpenAI, Ahmad said, "Bro was running narrative ops." Now, one other interesting dimension of the story has to do with the copyright arrangements that OpenAI will be putting in place. Sources said that the company has begun notifying
What up, Ribbons? Yeah, because no one created a social media channel, say calling it Vine, and having the videos be on 6 seconds before. Right. Good thing that didn't happen.
talent agencies and studios about the product over the past week. The communication notified rights holders that they will need to explicitly opt out, otherwise their intellectual property will be included in the generated videos. With the small nuance being that recognizable public figures won't appear without explicit permission, but fictional characters will require an opt-out. The debate around that could be an episode all on its own, but look.
That's neat. That's neat. So Disney will have to opt out, and Miramax or whoever owns their rights will have to opt out, and every other. That is interesting.
Look, I think that we are very close to actually getting this app, so I'm going to pause it here. We will come back and talk about all the implications when we see what the thing actually is and we get people's actual first reactions to it. Moving on to our next story, more layoff news seemingly related to AI.
What? AI doesn't cause job loss.
German airline Lufthansa said they would be eliminating the equivalent of 4,000 full-time roles by 2030. That's around 4% of their 102,000 strong workforce. However, this is a highly targeted downsizing, with Lufthansa aiming to make the cuts primarily from their 10,000 administrative roles. The layoffs are also a sharp change in direction, as Lufthansa stated that they would be adding 10,000 new hires over the course of the year back in January. In a press release, the company said, "The Lufthansa Group is reviewing which activities will no longer be necessary in the future, for example due to duplication of work. In particular, the profound changes brought about by digitalization and the increased use of artificial intelligence will lead to greater efficiency in many areas and processes." Like Accenture's downsizing announcement last week, this doesn't appear to be a case of a struggling company using AI to mask a round of belt tightening. After a troubled year in 2020.
Oh yeah, no, customer service systemer service. That's a Freudian typo. Customer service is beat, right? Like it's only a matter of time before it's fully beat. But yeah, there's also other administrative roles. Like middle management is B. You know what I mean? So, like, the world do be changing.
2024, where operating margins dropped to 4.4%. Lufthansa has guided that they expect margins to reach 10% by 2028, up from their strategic target of 8%. They also expect to see 2.5 billion euros of free cash flow by that date. The stock was up 0.9% on the news to bolster a year-to-date gain of 25. Now, Lufthansa claims that this is purely a restructuring effort to get ahead of reduced workforce needs as they accelerate AI adoption. And we are certainly going to be keeping an eye to see whether this type of announcement, i.e. forward telegraphing of AI shifts, becomes a trend. Lastly today, a bit of regulatory news. California Governor Gavin Newsom has signed AI safety bill SB 53. The bill is a watered-down version of last year's SB 1047, which was vetoed by Newsom in September. SB 53 requires leading AI companies to report the safety protocols they use in producing models and disclose the highest degree risks posed by the models. The law is largely concerned with catastrophic risks like aiding in bioweapons production or facilitating mass casualty events. In addition, the law strengthens whistleblower protections for employees of AI labs. California State Senator Scott Wiener, the chief sponsor of the bill, said, "This is a groundbreaking law that promotes both innovation and safety. The two are not mutually exclusive, even though they are often pitted against each other to be." Now, last year's SB 1047 featured a huge amount of very public pushback, while this process has been quite a bit quieter by comparison. Anthropic came out in favor of the bill, while Google and OpenAI opposed it. Meta was on the fence, not endorsing the bill, but giving Newsom a soft green light to sign it. And there are still some concerns. Colin McCune, the head of government affairs at Andreessen Horowitz, posted, "We're fighting for a national AI strategy that gives little tech a fair shot and keeps the US in the lead."
Last year's bill definitely would have made it more difficult to have open source AI. And I think that that is one of the changes that was made. So yeah, like, I'm not against regulation. It just needs to be good regulation and it needs to be well-written law. I don't know if SB 53 is either of those things. But the fact that some of them are for it and some of them are against it would lean me in that direction.
California's AI bill SB 53 includes some thoughtful provisions that account for the distinct needs of startups, but it misses an important mark by regulating how the technology is developed, a move that risks squeezing out startups, slowing innovation, and entrenching the biggest players. As well as railing against the idea of state-by-state regulation, Colin argued that the rules should govern how...
And I am against state-by-state regulation. It should be a national one, but our federal government is fucking dysfunctional.
How AI models are used rather than how they are trained. Still, the bill was drafted explicitly as a compromise. Senator Wiener worked with California's Joint California Policy Working Group on AI Frontier Models, which was set up last year following the veto. That group was chaired by Dr. Fei-Fei Li and includes numerous industry stakeholders. Overall, Newsom said that in passing the bill, quote, "California has proven that we can establish protections to protect our communities while also ensuring that the growing AI industry continues to thrive. This legislation strikes that balance." A last note before we move over to our main episode. Yesterday was one of those days where we had two very distinct big stories that could easily be a main all on their own. The first, which is what I went with, is all about Claude 4.5 and the expansion of the autonomy frontier for agents. But there is a ton about agentic commerce and OpenAI's new checkout feature in ChatGPT that really deserves its own space as well. I decided that rather than crowding that into the headlines today, the plan is currently for it to be the main episode for tomorrow. Although if we get that Sora 2 app or something new and big, who knows? Suffice it to say that sometime this week we will get into all of that. For now though, that's going to...
Part of the issue is that nationwide regulation doesn't usually get adopted until the majority of states adopt regulation. I mean, that is one way to go about it, but there are federal laws where the states just have to suck it up.
I'm going to do it for today's actual headlines. Next up, the main episode.
All right. So there's apparently a thing called ChatGPT Pulse. And again, I have been unfortunately distant from a lot of the news, so if you're already aware of this, bear with me. And if you're not aware of it, we're learning together.
OpenAI has announced ChatGPT Pulse, a new proactive background agent that prompts you instead of the other way around. Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief. Today, we are talking about the latest product release from OpenAI called ChatGPT Pulse. We're going to talk about what it does, why it represents a paradigm shift for the user interaction mode of AI, and check out the first responses, after which I will give you my hot take on where I think this all goes. Now, taking a step back, people have been eagerly awaiting a set of new product releases from OpenAI. First of all, the company's new CEO of applications, Fiji Simo, is now in place. But then more specifically than that, a few days ago, Sam Altman tweeted, "Over the next few weeks, we are launching some new compute-intensive offerings. Because of the associated costs, some features will initially only be available to Pro subscribers, and some new products will have additional fees. Our intention remains to drive the cost of intelligence down as aggressively as we can and make our services widely available, and we are confident we will get there over time. But we also want to learn what's possible when we throw a lot of compute at today's model costs at interesting new ideas." Now, since then, people have just been speculating around what we might get. Continuing to be high on the list is Sora 2, as well as the reasoning model that recently won the ICPC. But last night and earlier this morning, we got our first hints around what was coming as people started to notice a ChatGPT feature that would surface personalized insights daily. That feature is called Pulse, and Sam Altman calls it his favorite feature of ChatGPT so far. Here's how Sam describes it. He says Pulse works for you overnight and keeps thinking about your interests, your connected data, your recent chats, and more. Every morning, you get a custom-generated set of stuff you might be interested in. It performs super well if you tell ChatGPT more about what's important to you. In regular chat, you could mention, "I'd like to go visit Bora Bora someday," or "My kid is 6 months old, and I'm interested in developmental milestones." And in the future, you might get useful updates. Think of treating ChatGPT like a super competent personal assistant. Sometimes you ask for things you need in the moment, but if you share general preferences, it will do a good job for you proactively. This also points to what I believe is the future of ChatGPT, a shift from being all reactive to being significantly proactive and extremely personalized. And those were a lot of the messages that were reinforced in the announcement blog post as well. Pulse is a once-a-day, everyday push that creates a personalized feed of highly relevant, or at least hopefully highly relevant information. One thing that's interesting is that throughout the announcement post, they really lean on the language of research. Pulse, they write, is a new experience where ChatGPT proactively does research to deliver personalized updates based on your chats, feedback, and connected apps like your calendar. You can curate what ChatGPT researches by letting it know what's useful and what isn't. ChatGPT can now do asynchronous research on your behalf, etc., etc., etc. It's very clear that the action that they are pushing with this is research, even if the output is this daily update. One other thing that they emphasize very strongly in both their announcement posts as well as the press coverage around it is that this is
What up, Bark Eater J? What up, Park Course? Park Course!
not meant to be some attention-capturing infinite scroll thing. They want to give you what's valuable, not get you stuck there. Initially, this is only rolling out for pro users, following that pattern that Sam had promised a couple of days ago. Fiji Simo tweeted, "AI should do more than just answer questions. It should anticipate your needs and help you reach your goals. That's what we're beginning to build, starting with ChatGPT Pulse." ChatGPT head Nick Hurley says that there is more like this coming in the future. He writes, "This is just the first step. Over time, we want ChatGPT to evolve from answering questions to proactively helping you make progress." Greg Brockman used the term that I think is particularly relevant for this, calling it a background agent which delivers updates to you every day on topics of interest. And this is an important part of the paradigm shift this represents. With this release, ChatGPT
Is it not getting a... There it is.
The price of my love's not a price that you're willing to pay.
There it is. 24 months. Most of that, if not all of that, was Prime, too, Bark Eater J. So that's like a, how can I sing that? Who am I? I'm a fan of the musical, Hamilton. You say the price of my love's not a price that you're willing to pay. You cry in your tea something. I can't remember the words right now. I'm tired. That you hurl in the sea as you see me go by. Why so sad? Someday. Someday I'll just fucking sing songs at random. Someday maybe I'll get into Redolent Thoughts, Jesus Christ Superstar streamer musical. But yes, Barkeater J. Barkeater J. I believe most of that 2 years has been Prime, and so that's like a double coup, right? Not only do you support the channel, but you support it with someone else's money. What up, T minus? It sounds like getting results leading in certain directions. That's actually like something I would be concerned about as well. T minus, right? Like, there's always the possibility of falling deeper into like a certain echo chamber. You know what I mean? You have to speak with Redolent Thought. Redolent Thought wants to do a Jesus Christ Superstar musical, and he wants to use streamers, and shit, I'm in.
Is very self-consciously experimenting with the move from reactive to proactive.
And Snap pays for half the Prime membership. So it's like we're absolutely playing with other people's money, and it's rich people's money, which is even better. It's just better on better on better.
Now, background agents are a big theme right now across a number of different domains. It's a big point of conversation, for example, in the agentic coding space, whereas 6 months ago, all of agentic coding was you sitting in an IDE and telling it what to do and interacting as it brought code back. Now agentic coding frequently involves spinning up background agents that just go off and do things on their own, with much less human interaction. And indeed, this is actually a slightly different access for agents than sheer autonomy. We've got general purpose agents now like Manus and GenSpark and even Chat.
Again, to get a little more nuanced, right, about money being real, at the high level, money is fake. At the cash register, money is very, very real.
ChatGPT agent, and these are some of our first paths into much more autonomous AI experiences. These tools have much more autonomy to figure out how to accomplish a goal and can take on much more comprehensive tasks. But they are still reactive to the prompt. You're still describing what you want it to do. It's just that what you can have it do can be much more comprehensive and complete than perhaps the way that you would prompt a chatbot like ChatGPT or Claude. We've also been having this conversation about ambient versus reactive AI in the context of devices. Some builders, like Avi Schiffman and Friend.com, are really all in on the idea of ambient AI. The Friend pendant, for example, experiences the world alongside you and can interact with you in the world as such. Meta's Ray-Bans, meanwhile, while yes, still having more ambient awareness of what's going on around you, aren't necessarily as proactively taking actions, instead waiting for you to control the mode of interacting through the device. The point is that these really are quite different paradigms of interacting with AI. And I don't think right now it's super clear exactly where people are going to want to end up. Of course, the only way to learn that is by releasing products that do different things and seeing where things all shake out. Now, another piece of this.
I love this. I don't want anything new. Just keep what works and I'll be happy forever. Enjoy that.
Products that do different things and seeing where things all shake out. Now, another piece of this is that it really puts a fine point on the importance of context and memory, particularly as lock-in. One of the biggest reasons that people still aren't counting Apple out of the AI space, even after all of their stumbles and seeming lack of action, is that the iPhone is just a big context machine. It has more information about you and your life as you live it than just about any other single source. We've seen a wave of recent email assistant tools like the one that was just announced this week from Perplexity, because again, your email inbox is a place that is just chock full of context. Pulse seems, among other things, like a way for ChatGPT to take advantage of all that context. Pulse co-creator Andrew Chen wrote about this, saying, "Last week I asked about bike maintenance, and Pulse remembered I'd been looking at weekend activities, so it found me a bike route I didn't know existed near my place. When I was debugging Pulse code..."
T-minus, I think it was in Red's stream that I found out that they did it. It happened. And I didn't know. It was a TV show on Hulu. Apparently. I didn't either. But you can watch it on Hulu. And it got anywhere between a 75% and a 5.5 out of 10.
It surfaced fresh.
No, 2023. 2023. Not 2003. 2023. Just a couple of years ago. I was completely unaware.
RL papers from Arvix because it knows what's relevant to my work. I think
Arvix?
Memory and context are going to be huge sources of moat and defensibility in the future. And so it's smart, I think, for OpenAI to try to experiment with features that more explicitly leverage that memory and context to try to create experiences that would make it very hard to switch out of that environment. So what are people's first impressions? Well, a lot of them are positive. Mari Haynes writes, ChatGPT Pulse looks super helpful. It proactively shows you things you might be interested in based on the conversation. Simon Smith writes, first impression, this is going to be insanely useful. It's like a newsfeed tailored to recent conversations. It reminded me of Perplexity's Discover feature, only way more personal. Like, you don't just get content on broad topics like artificial intelligence, you get content on very specific things you've been discussing with ChatGPT. For example, I was chatting with it the other day about AIs competing with each other, so it presented some context on that. It even finds content for things you've mentioned in passing but are genuinely interested in. It noticed I've been asking about Toronto's crashing condo market, for example, so found me an article on that. He also complimented the onboarding experience and concluded ultimately that this feels like the most personalized newsfeed you can imagine. It makes me want to dump even more information and context and app connections into ChatGPT so I can get an even better daily feed. Sai Kambapati thinks that this is the start of a trend, saying, ChatGPT Pulse is going to spark a new wave of proactive technology. You're going to see a lot of apps building this out over the next few months. Olivia Moore from A16Z answered some questions that I had about how much this is going to be slanted personal versus professional. She wrote, at least on my testing, it surfaces mostly professional topics I've been discussing versus personal. This is in contrast to the launch videos which showed more of the personal use cases. I'm curious if that's a deliberate decision.
What up, Ben?
Not to spook users at launch. The model seems to be identify trends across topics you care about, summarize them with key insights, point you towards more resources to unpack them further. She also noted that despite the fact that she had connectors set up and had given it access to Calendar, it didn't bring in anything from her meeting schedule. There were some folks who were a little bit more skeptical. BoneGPT writes, for $200 a month, ChatGPT Pulse will tell you how to take care of your kitten and what you can do at Heathrow Airport. That was the demo, can't make this up. Note the big accounts are acting like they changed the world again. Maybe a more in-between take comes from Antoine, who writes, ChatGPT Pulse feels helpful, but yet it looks more like early Operator. Everyone was excited and knew that AI agents are the future, but Operator was kind of raw, right? So here we probably will see the same. It will be useful when it becomes one of the core AI features, not extra with its own name. Now, I promised at the beginning that I would give my take, and here it is. I will speak for myself personally, and then for what I think more broadly. For me personally, I do not believe that I will care about this feature much. None of the ways that the OpenAI team has described how it's changed their behavior seem particularly appealing to me, or like value that I really care about getting out of ChatGPT. An important caveat is that if you've been listening to me for a while, you'll know that I am much more bearish than the average person, I think, on the personal assistant type use cases in general, though. I just think that a lot of the use cases that people talk about are much more neat and cool than actually valuable in a way that's going to change people's habits. But like I said, I know that I index on the skeptical end of that spectrum, and my behaviors certainly don't reflect everyone's behaviors, and particularly the behaviors of people who are much younger and who are still forming what their normal sort of mode of interaction looks like. Secondly, like Olivia was talking about, this very much feels, at least for now, like a generalist or consumer rather than a work-focused feature. Now, she did note that most of her pulse was all about work, but in terms of all of the use cases and things that people are excitedly sharing from inside OpenAI, they seem very much geared at that generalist, non-work side of ChatGPT, which, as we know from their recent research, represents something like 70% of ChatGPT's usage. Lastly, the biggest thing that I would caution OpenAI is that I kind of fundamentally don't agree with this statement from Fiji Simo. She says AI should do more than just answer questions. It should anticipate your needs and help you reach your goals. I don't think that that is necessarily true, or that everyone necessarily agrees with that. I am by any metric a mega superpower user of not only ChatGPT, but every single one of ChatGPT's competitors. That's how much I use these tools. And there is no part of me, frankly, that cares about these tools anticipating my needs. For me, I use them to help me reach my goals by steering them the way that I want them to go. I want them to be more performant in doing the things that I want them to do and reacting to my needs when I express them. That does not mean that A, I think that my usage represents everyone or even a majority of people, or B, that they shouldn't go experiment with things like this. It could be that they are totally right, and that the usage patterns that many, if not most people want, are these sort of more ambient, background, anticipatory, and proactive sort of interactions. But it is very much an untested assertion and a hypothesis that this is where that all needs to go. And there can be negative consequences for being convinced that your hypothesis is just an assertion of fact before you've got the evidence. I say this with incredible respect for everything that they've done, but maybe one of the takeaways from the debacles of the 4.0 rebellion after OpenAI decided to deprecate all these old models as it released GPT-5 is that the company is not always going to know better than its users and might want to take a slightly more humble stance when it comes to testing out these new hypotheses that no one can possibly know the answer to until they put out products that allow people to actually interact and discover. Now, certainly I hope you don't perceive any of this as me being overly bearish on this product. I'm excited to try it as soon as I see access to it pop open in the app. I'm going to set it up, and I will give it at least a couple weeks of seeing if, in spite of myself, I actually end up using it more than I think. But for now, that's where I personally am starting. I think it's an interesting and important experiment. I think that there are going
I think most people do want a higher grade of reliability. I think that there is a, potential room in the you don't know what you don't know aspect of having something that can take what you're interested in and the discoverability prices, right? Like putting more stuff in front of you, like were you aware about this, right? Like I was imagining as he was talking, I have the post-scarcity paradigm shift custom GPT built, and if ChatGPT was finding more information to put into that and to talk about and to think about within that context, I think that there's value there, right? Like, so that's the kind of lens I'm viewing it through. But we'll have to see. And up next, it looks like Nate got his hands on it, and let's see what Nate has to say about his experience.
to be both proactive and reactive experiences in AI, and I'm excited to see what comes of this. For now, though, that's going to do it for today's AI Daily Brief. Appreciate you listening or watching as always, and until next time, peace.
All right, let's get right to it. What were the AI stories that mattered the most this week? And new this week, I'm going to put in the post a special prompt for you to grab the implications of these stories depending on your company, your role, your domain of interest. You're going to be able to go like a step deeper with that. Story number one, OpenAI is going proactive, and this has a lot of pull-out threads.
I will say that Always Sunny in Philadelphia has ruined me. Because every time I hear the word implication, And if you don't know what I'm talking about, good. Do not go down that road. But that's where we're at.
Implications I want to get at briefly. The launch is called Pulse, and it offers proactive AI assistance based on what you most recently talked about. So think of it as sort of like an Instagram stories reel, but it's tuned to your previous chat, specifically.
Apparently, it's a conspiracy theory. And I'm going to leave it at that because I feel no desire to go down conspiracy rabbit holes.
Very recent chats, like the last day or two. It's available to pro users initially. I've tried it out, and what I've found is that it's a very, very seamless, almost eerily relevant experience. It changes my behavior in some interesting ways, though, because it's pushing me now to start to have conversations
Dojo?
a day or two in advance of when I think I need to have them to plan for work, so that I give Pulse a chance to work overnight and give me interesting insights the morning when I actually have to do the work. It's always a good sign when a product launch is so impactful, it immediately changes your workflow. And that's what I found here. But the implications go beyond sort of pro user availability. What you see with Pulse is ChatGPT investing fairly transparently in an ad surface. It was always going to be challenging for ChatGPT to keep an aura of objectivity in individual conversations that users initiate. It will be much easier to position ads inside Pulse because Pulse is already proactive. Pulse is already an experience that you didn't necessarily ask for, but ChatGPT is offering to you. So if they slide in a card in that sort of Pulse format and the card is sponsored, you can just ignore it if you don't want it, right? It's a very simple ad experience. And of course, at the same time as they launch Pulse, we notice that OpenAI has opened up a ads monetization role at ChatGPT. So something is coming there on the ads front, and Pulse seems to be related to it. We will have to kind of put a pin in that and stay tuned to see where they go with that. One final implication I want to call out on the Pulse story. This is the beginning of an entire new arc where we will see AI become more proactive. This is one of the first widely consumer available proactive AI experiences. And I want you to keep that in mind because a lot of the other threads we're following over the course of the last few months point to a 2026 that is more AI proactive versus AI reactive. And major model makers are all building in that direction. Let's get to story number 2. Microsoft is diversifying Copilot with Anthropic models. And this is really fascinating because Microsoft has been known for leaning in on OpenAI for a while. But as we discovered in the last couple of weeks, Microsoft and OpenAI have finalized a new, looser partnership format. And it's not super surprising in that context to see Microsoft go for another major model maker as essential to their suite of tools. And I think it's the right call because if you
always is a long time. It may be that there are segments of society that reject certain aspects of it, but if it becomes more ubiquitous, right? And right now, the problem is that one, some people have a knee-jerk reaction to AI, right? Like some of them are just adamantly against it for a variety of reasons. And what up, Leftist Corp? I have not. And yeah. Again, dysfunctional. The the other thing is that people are seeing AI in their tools where they already saw value of not AI, and the AI doesn't appear to be giving additional value, right? Like, that's ultimately the problem. Like, a lot of people just don't see how AI improves their experience. So, if you can get to the point where you're actually providing them with, like, some kind of that's cool, that's awesome, or holy shit type moment, at that point in time, then they might get into using AI, right? But there's nothing that they're currently getting out of it.
Look at how Anthropic actually performs, how Claude Opus 4.1 specifically performs on work that Copilot people do, slides, sheets, looking at docs. That's work Opus 4.1 does very well. It's not just me saying that. Ironically, it's ChatGPT saying that too. OpenAI completed a study called GDP Val this week that actually tests major AI models against economically useful work tasks. Now, before you run away with the
Yes, leftist corp, and we've had that discussion before. But like the phone, right? AI needs its iPhone moment to steal a hackneyed phrase at this point. But it needs some kind of thing where people see the value in having the tool available to them all the time, and where they're interacting with it fairly often.
wrong headline here. This is not the same as saying it's testing major model makers against.
Lower your shields and surrender your ships. We will add your biological and technological distinctiveness to our own. Resistance is futile.
I find it hilarious, parkours, because you're already here and you're rating. But I will, you because you rated, you get a shout out. We do shout people out who raid. So there you go.
Economically useful jobs. These are very, very limited tasks where the context is prepared by an expert in a neat little package, and then an expert prepares a gold standard solution, and then the major model makers.
Tenacious Liege, I have no idea what you're talking about. You are on a anti-war machine level of just talking your shit and working through whatever you're working through. So I it's cool. It's making the chat move. What up, Stellar Wingman? Parkour is here. Was kind of here and not here. You know what I mean?
Run their models against the problem space and see how their result compares to that gold standard in a blind evaluation. Fine. It's not real work in the sense that it's not as messy, but it is real work in the sense that the tasks are real and designed by experts in the field. That being said, OpenAI sponsored all of this and set it up and ran it, and even they admit that Opus 4.1 from Anthropic is better at doing that kind of economically useful work than any of ChatGPT's models, which is a huge endorsement for Opus 4.1 and the Anthropic team, and one that I personally have found correct. Like, I prefer Opus 4.1 for preparing a slide deck, for creating a spreadsheet. It is just much more useful than the ChatGPT models at this point. And so it's not surprising to see Microsoft pulling the Anthropic models into Copilot as they evaluate that. There are heavy rumors that this is going to get even better shortly, as we suspect that Anthropic is on the verge of releasing something like a 4.5 version of Opus, which would presumably be a step forward here. So stay tuned for that. That may be coming in the next couple of weeks. We will have to see. Story number 3, Meta is exploring a Gemini partnership for ad targeting. So Meta's in early discussions with Google Cloud about integrating Google's Gemini AI models into Meta's ad operations. And Meta employees have explored how Gemini's multimodal capabilities, like Nano Banana, could refine algorithms that match ads to users on Facebook and Instagram. So basically, can you take the sort of Facebook, Instagram, social algorithm secret sauce that Meta has and marry it to the image generation capabilities potentially, or the text generation capabilities that Gemini has? This is a huge step back for Zuckerberg and Meta. And I know you might not have expected me to say that, but hear me out. They have invested an enormous amount of money in their own AI. Zuck just got done making headlines for the largest pay packages in history for his AI team, and then very publicly lost about a half a dozen researchers who stayed briefly at Meta and left for undisclosed reasons, but everyone guesses the culture. In this situation, Zuck is having to admit that Llama, his own home-built model, is just not good enough for this task. And
hilarious.
He's having to go to Google. This underlines how the race for AI has narrowed over the last year or so. A year or two ago, Llama would have been right in the race.
Tenacious Liege, the problem you're running into is the LUL emote. The LUL emote does not work in this chat.
With the top leaders, it's just not now. It's just not. And the race has narrowed really to Google and OpenAI and Anthropic.
Bad.
And I know Grok is really trying. But like Llama's not even in the conversation, and even Meta is admitting that. And that is the undercurrent here. And that is a really big question mark for Meta, because Zuck has not publicly suggested he's walking back his big dollar investments in AI for the future. He's still planning to spend hundreds of billions over the next few years on AI. Where is that money going to go? What do they anticipate? Is this a story sort of like Apple's chipset story, where they're going to spend a vast amount of money trying to catch up and build their own chipsets, and eventually they do? Or is it a story where Meta's going to invest this money and
is that who, like, I saw that EA was involved in a $55 billion leverage buyout, but I didn't get any details because I wanted to wait until it was all resolved. But is that what's happening, Stellar Wingman? What up, Cracking Pills?
And then gradually kind of roll it back as they realize they can't catch up. We don't know where that's going to go yet, but for now, it looks like Meta is not in the driver's.
Fuck. What up, old lobster? This is why you say it, it can't get any worse. It can always get worse. The fire can always make more fires.
See, even in their own business on AI. Story number 4, OpenAI is continuing to make headlines for.
I disagree. I think that, what was it, the 2014? I think, I want to say it was the 2014 or 2015, 2014. No. I'm sorry, not Madden 25. Not that fucking thing. Glittering and smoking the reefer. Was it 2004? It might have been 2004. When was the last time you could do college shit? No, before that, dipshit. Not. $2012? Yeah. No, it is close to 1996. What up, Spectrophonic? But yeah, no, like back when you could play college ball and then import your draft classes to Madden, that's when it was cool. After that, maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. But yeah. No, I just remember playing on the original Xbox, playing Madden on that joint, and I made Steve Rogers the quarterback, and goddamn if he didn't play an awful lot like Josh Allen.
How much they are spending on data centers. They are aggressively building capacity in ways that sort of it boggles the mind, right? The size of the numbers involved in terms of power generation, in terms of dollars. We are now over $400 billion in investment over 3 years in the Stargate project, which is their sort of flagship project. And they announced with Oracle 5 new AI data centers as a part of the Stargate project. What this is suggesting to me is that not.
Well, like, again, the water consumption numbers are estimates, first off. And second, the new data centers that are being built all use closed loop. So significantly less water is involved in the process. Yeah.
Not only is Stargate not just a headline, Stargate is an umbrella term for the 3 to 5 year vision that OpenAI has for a massive X or so scale up in compute versus present state. Maybe more than 100x scale up in compute when it's all done. And they are not having trouble attracting the investment they need to get there. In fact, some of the stories over the last.
Because you got to think, put yourself in the shoes of a soulless corporation for a minute that's building a data center, right? And you need to build it in a place where you can access water. One, you're going to get all the headaches from, the PR nightmare that you do, but also it limits the places where you can actually like do the shit because you have to locate it next to an aquifer, you know what I mean? Right. It's too costly to run up a water bill due to evaporation, right? Yeah. So the idea that you can do better options, Dojo, like I am like a huge proponent of waste heat capture. You know what I mean? Two reasons, Spectrophonic. One, tax, like business friendly environments, right? Which Arizona is one. And two, latency. Right? Latency is part of the problem.
Few weeks around Oracle's investment in OpenAI, around NVIDIA's investment in OpenAI, this week around SoftBank leaning in on financing for Stargate. It all adds up to Sam Altman being able to attract the capital he needs to get this power generation vision done. And his vision goes beyond just building stuff. He wants.
Light does move fast, but still, like, why do people who fuck around in the stock market build their, like, stock trading computer bullshit as close to the, like the New York Stock Exchange as possible? Because the fractions of a second matter, you know what I mean?
Wants to get to a point where construction of additional capacity for AI is fully autonomous. And there was a blog post about that while it's aspirational is important to consider.
Super far.
Sam
super far, and you actually have to go through another country, right? Which is problematic.
Expects that he will be able to have in 3 to 5 years entirely autonomous data center production. So robots will put the data centers together, robots will bring the chips in, there will be robotic chip fabs, and they will be able to autonomously stand up new data centers to match the capacity needs of AI.
No, I mean, it's a fair question, right? Like, because people ask questions like that, like, and that's why it's important to explore the questions and get to the point, right? Yeah, exactly.
You would only do this if you are expecting not just a 100x gain in demand for AI, but 1,000x gain. And so
it still matters for AI because there is an obsession that people have with instant answer, right? Um that is the current trend. The electronics do work better in the cold, the mechanicals don't.
Sam's vision is predictably incredibly grand, and that blog post gives us a sense of why these other companies are willing to put so much skin in the game, so many dollars to scale up on the data center side. What this suggests is that the demand story for AI remains intact and that we are going to continue to see.
And also, you run into the issue if you're going with renewables, or at least leaning into renewables, and you're using something like solar, as you get farther north away from, the equator, you get less sun over periods of time.
Aggressive build out. Let's get to story number 5. Kimi is a Chinese AI company. It's Moonshot AI's model, right? So the Chinese company is named Moonshot, and they produce Kimi K, which is a trillion parameter model. It's very, very good, and it is now available as an agent. It's called OK Computer, and it was launched on the 24th of September. It allows Kimi to access.
Yeah, it's like anything else. There is an ideal operating temperature for just about everything, right? And when you get outside of that operating temperature, whether too hot or too cold, then you end up in a situation where you're going to get degraded performance or failure.
Its own virtual computer environment with a file system, a browser, and a terminal, and it can autonomously execute complicated multi-step tasks for you. And so it can transform chat requests into websites or data dashboards or production documents, what have you. This gives us a glimpse of do the work assistance, but critically, it also is pushing the edges of AI agent autonomy, and it's doing so from a Chinese perspective. And what I mean by that is that it is reminding us that the Chinese model development evolution continues to push the edges. And if you're like deep in the weeds technically, Kimi K2 also set a new bar on efficiency for training. You can look up Muon if you want to get deeper on that, and you will see a lot on sort of how the K2 model was trained and how efficient they were at training the K2 model. That's just a little sort of nerd sidebar there. But this is really the larger story, that the Chinese companies innovating on AI are pushing the edges forward, especially around open source, and they are very, very intentionally pushing straight.
Like, weren't there some issues with EVs and the battery charging, and distance of travel in cold temperature areas? Not like Alaska, but like South Dakota and shit like that.
Straight to agentic. It's sort of a leapfrog motion where they're not just satisfied with LLMs, they're going to push into advanced AI agent capabilities. And while US enterprises and European enterprises may have enough data concerns to say, you know what, we don't trust a Chinese hosted Kimi K2 to do OK Computer agent mode for us, individuals will not have those constraints. And if the product experience is smooth and useful, individuals are going to start using this. So I look at OK Computer as both a push on agent mode for the industry as a whole, and you'll see US companies start to follow suit. I also look at it as a directly useful tool for individuals and potentially some small businesses that aren't too worried about the data side right now. Story number 6, Adobe is buying instead of building. Adobe has taken a beat.
What up, Kensai? Proton Pass has let's do an ad. Proton Pass has a place you can store important files securely and easily. You can use it to hide your email by using aliases that redirect through their secure servers back to your regular email account. They have integrated two-factor authentication, which everyone should be using two-factor authentication. Secure password sharing, right? Always helpful. Dark web monitoring if you're into that kind of thing, and passkeys. Passkeys are really nice. And you can get all that at $249 a month for 12 months. You do have to pay for all 12 months at once, but it ends up costing you $30 every 12 months. And in interest of full disclosure, 30% of what you spend comes back to yours truly. So that's what Proton Pass is. I'm currently in the process of switching my two-factor authenticator from Google over to Proton Pass. How many devices? That is a good question. That is a question I don't have the answer. Yeah, $30 for a year is not bad. You do, in order to get the benefit of the 50% off, you do have to pay for an entire year. But like this is my thing. I got Paramount Plus. What up, Johnny Prophet? I got Paramount Plus at like some very cheap rate because I got the entire year up front. And honestly, I would much rather do that and then set up a cancel my service reminder in my calendar. Because that way I'm not, I don't like monthly payments if I can avoid them. How many devices? Let us do a thing. Let's see. We're going to test out their AI. Boop, 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 boop. Where is it? What about my other recently closed windows? Do it the old-fashioned way. Yeah, that could very well be the case. What Old Lobster said. Old Lobster has has probably the most experience. Right, used it for years. Now what? Did you just die? It's not looking good. How many devices are covered by Proton Pass? Devices covered by Proton Pass. Try again. Proton, up to 5 devices. Sync your passwords across up to 5 devices. A link would be helpful. How about we give you web search and try again? Yeah. And we're thinking, and we're thinking. And it says again, five devices per user. So that's the answer to the question. That is 3 of the 5 devices. Also, give me 1 second here, because I got an email from near. Oh, wrong account. Do 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 do. Dum 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 dum. Bum 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 ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum ba-dum bum 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 bum. Yeah, Alaska is a weird mix of like socialism and right-wing bullshit. So do. Okay, so for those of you with a little more funding who also are interested in additional options, I have been given a link to save 23% off Proton Unlimited. Right? Again, you do have to buy an entire year in order to take advantage of that. Which comes it's $120. And if you hold on. Is that it? Has anybody seen my gal? Yeah. Okay. Get you a reasonably sized link. What up, Jaeger? All right. So, what does Proton Unlimited? Holy shit!
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna get myself a 1967 Cadillac Eldorado convertible. Hot pink, with a whale skin hubcaps, and all leather cow interior, and big brown baby seal eyes for headlights. Yeah! And I'm gonna ride around in that baby at 115 miles per hour, getting 1 mile per gallon, sucking out porta-potty cheeseburgers from McDonald's in the old-fashioned, non-biodegradable styrofoam containers. And when I'm done sucking down those greaseball burgers, I'm gonna wipe my mouth with the American flag, and then I'm gonna toss the styrofoam containers right aside, and there ain't a goddamn thing anybody can do about it. You know why? Because we got the bomb. That's why. 2 words: nuclear fucking weapons. Okay?
Unfortunately, nobody seems terribly interested in funding my research, but
I am.
I will fund your research. Yeah?
Yeah. That'd be cool.
That'd be cool.
Jaeger.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
And Valorant.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Valorant getting one to Elwa and Johnny Prophet, and Jaeger hit Nemesis, Avocado, Red Hobbit, Cosmic. Very, very nice. Excellent. That was a top tier gifted sub 10 rack right there. Like, very nice. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. And there is a hype trade. So if y'all want to get in on that, remember it's September and you can save money. Cosmic, you got a gift sub, homie. Proton Unlimited, which I think Van Briggs, you know, Valorant, you say Valorant isn't a human, but, you know, maybe. Proton Unlimited gets you access to their VPN, their paid version of the VPN. It gives you Proton Drive, which is like Google Drive, but they're... What up, Paradigm? I beat Penta. I don't know how I beat Penta, but I beat Penta. Been drinking?
I don't know who I am anymore. I'm getting too much money.
Parkours, thank you for the biddies. I can't... it would be wrong of me to say you should drink more, but... I do appreciate this particular event. I can say that. It's more secure offsite storage than Google Drive. There you go. That's from someone apparently who has it. You got your Proton Mail and you got your Proton Pass.
I was gonna drink a water. Oh really? Listen how much water I drank.
Actual water.
Wow, that's really cool, dude. Yeah, okay.
I don't know who I am anymore. I'm getting too much money.
Let's see how this works. Hold on, Paradigm. I clicked accept, and now I'm not sure what's happening. Ribbons, thank you for the biddies. Because nothing else happened. $13,000 servers they have with the Proton VPN.
I swear I will not kill anyone.
Anymore. I'm getting too much money.
We are state fruipin. And yes, Big Ben, I still failed to create a 69-bit special thing. Stellar Wingman. I don't know who I
am anymore. I'm getting too much money.
Stellar Wingman with the 101. Should I do a rhizome? Stellar Wingman with the 101 over here. So yeah, and you can apparently test it for 30 days, which is always nice. And again, 30% of the whatever you spend via either of those links comes back to yours truly. So if this is the kind of stuff you're into, then maybe get yourself some some secure interneting and support your local streamer at the same time. Bigly. So that's what Proton Pass and Proton Unlimited are. And once again, the link for Proton Unlimited is there, and Proton Pass is in the down there part. I don't have it currently, but I will in the near future. I've done a shit ton of research and found that Proton is genuinely good. They have an actual no-log policy and do regular audits on their security. You gotta love people who do research. You gotta love it. Thank you, Van Briggs. And Old Lobster, obviously. Where were we?
Recently in the public markets because their AI products are widely perceived to be missing the mark. And so they announced comprehensive third-party model integration across Firefly, embedding with the Luma Ray 3 model for video, and adding a bunch more.
Yes, I remember we talked about that. They recently announced they will move all operations out of Switzerland due to their privacy laws and will permanently be in EUDCs and privacy-friendly countries. So if you're concerned about privacy, and in these times it's helpful to be concerned about privacy, maybe Proton is right for you.
Opportunities for model support from Google, OpenAI, Ideogram, and others. In other words, Adobe is deliberately importing best-in-class capabilities rather than trying to compete anymore with proprietary Firefly models. This feels a lot like the Meta story. Adobe's basically admitting their own AI strategy is dead in the water, and they need to bring in other models. Now, the implication here.
Again, the implication. Adobe's entire everything is basically dead in the water, right? Like they are like, I don't even know. I mean, I guess corporate, right? Lumo, their AI, represents one of many investments Proton will be making before the end of the decade to ensure that Europe stays strong, independent, and technologically sovereign. Because of legal uncertainty around Swiss government proposals to introduce mass surveillance, proposals that have been outlawed in the EU, Proton is moving most of its physical infrastructure out of Switzerland. Lumo will be the first product to move.
Here is that Adobe is going to eat margin to do that. Notion very publicly has said during the Notion 3.0.
And I think that's where like they're leaning into, Ben, right? Like they're or have lent into. Old Lobster, you know, like I love my homie. I love my lorks, right? I love my lorks. But like it didn't work. There it goes. Yeah. There it goes. I mean, maybe I should one shitty prompt, right? Like the prompt is, if you can't read it, turn this into an emote for Twitch. I want to keep the guy but make the background transparent. And literally that's what happened. No watermark, no nothing. Done and done. But I like my suffering artisanal.
Rollout, which also happened this week, that they were eating their own margin and that they were costing their gross margin about 10 percentage points to roll out AI. So they went from 90% gross margins to 80% gross margins as a business to deliver AI functionality, but they felt it was worth it for the long-term value of the business. Adobe hasn't revealed their gross margins, of course, but I suspect that is the kind of impact they're going to have when they actually bring in these third-party services and start to pay for them and start to essentially have the brains of Adobe Firefly and other tools built by other people. So this is a story where even traditional SaaS companies are starting to have to let other models in the door because it's just too expensive to compete on the model side directly. Very, very interesting implications here for other businesses that need intelligence. Finally, story number 7, California is advancing AI safety legislation. So California's legislature passed Senate Bill 53, which requires major AI developers to publicly disclose safety and security protocols and establishes whistleblower protections and incident reporting. It also creates CalCompute, which is a public computing cluster for AI research. The reason this matters is because the major model makers are all based in California, and because California is such a large and influential state in the federal system. And so I would expect that we will see actual implemented AI safety and transparency requirements at Anthropic, at OpenAI, both of which are based in San Francisco, and at Google, also based in San Francisco. And we are going to start to see public disclosure and discussion around what that means, and probably implications for other states that may be looking at AI safety. California is setting the bar for the nation as a whole here, but it is also
I got some turpentine, some wax, and some high-gloss boat paint. This shit is really expensive.
Oh, dude, yeah, you're telling me. I picked us up some new slacks and docksiders so we could have the right look, you know, and fit in and everything. We're running pretty low on remaining dick towel money, though.
Plus, we gotta fill that thing up with gas.
I know, man. We gotta pop by the department store, pick up the mattress, and I wanna get a nice one, too. You know what I'm saying?
The what? The mattress? What do we need a mattress for?
What do you mean, what do we need a mattress for? Why in the hell do you think we just spent all that money on a boat? The whole purpose of buying the boat in the first place was to get the ladies nice and tipsy topside so we can take them to a nice, comfortable place below deck and, you know, they can't refuse because of the implication.
Okay. You had me going there for the first part. The second half kind of threw me.
Well, dude, think about it. She's out in the middle of nowhere with some dude she barely knows. You know, she looks around her, what does she see? Nothing but open ocean. There's nowhere for me to run. What am I gonna do, say no?
Okay, that seems really dark.
No, it's not dark. You're misunderstanding me, bro.
I think I am.
Yeah, you are.
It's important to remember that all the characters in Always Sunny are the bad people, right? They are not the good people. They are the terrible, terrible people.
Because if the girl said no, then the answer obviously is no.
No.
But the thing is she's not gonna say no. She would never say no because of the implication.
Now, you've said that word implication a couple of times. What implication?
The implication that things might go wrong for her if she refuses to sleep with me. Now, not that things are gonna go wrong for her, but she's thinking that they will.
But it sounds like she doesn't want to have sex.
Why aren't you
with
understanding
I
this?
don't.
She doesn't know whether she wants to have sex with me. It's that
She doesn't
That's not
know?
the issue.
Are you gonna hurt women?
I'm not gonna hurt these women.
Okay.
Why would I ever hurt these women?
I don't
I
know.
feel like you're not getting this at all.
I'm not getting it.
God damn. Well, don't you look at me like that. You certainly wouldn't be in any danger.
So that's just every time I hear the word implication. What up, Bondzilla? Mac is the only one who actually, has good moments, I think. But even then, they're terrible.
Directly impacting the daily operations of the biggest model makers on the planet. And so if we're looking ahead at national AI safety legislation, California is showing a sort of way to go there, a direction to head in. But it's also going to require companies to change their behavior immediately. Now, OpenAI has said they're neutral on this. They don't have an opinion. And
I will say that Charlie gave me my favorite song.
There is a spider, spider. It's deep in my soul. He's lived here for years. He just won't let go. He's laying around. He's got a mean bite. Now Now he's ready to fight and stand up for what he knows. I don't need your trophy, so you go. I just want to tell you all, go fuck yourself. Oh, shit. Go fuck yourself.
Is he spitting?
Is he spitting?
Oh, he's spitting at them. Is that the sign? Screw it.
Fine.
Spit! Spit!
Hey, you!
Oh, what is wrong with you people?
We don't need you!
Get out of here!
Need you!
And when I found out that they do be spitting, when I found out that there was actually a reaction to the fact that Always Sunny didn't get nominated for any awards or anything. So good. So good.
Anthropic has endorsed the bill publicly, and Google hasn't really given a signal that I've been able to find.
This is an AI channel.
Regardless, once this is signed, these model makers will have to comply. They will have to start to
what up, boiled peanuts?
Show that they have safety and security protocols in line with Senate Bill 53. They will have to show that they have whistleblower protections. There will be new compliance loads. This has implications for companies purchasing from those model makers too. And that's not been figured out yet. So stay tuned for more there, but I wanted to call out that that's a landmark in the US on AI safety legislation and one to watch. As I noted, you can get more implications on each of these stories in the prompt that I prepared for you in the post. Have a great week. Cheers.
They are complete and total bullshit and always have been. Fuck them. Up next, new Cold Fusion.
Hi.
Hi. A little aggressive. Replacing humans with AI is going horribly wrong.
Welcome to another episode of Cold Fusion. Since 2023, the fast food chain Taco Bell introduced artificial intelligence at
Oh, Jesus Christ. It is so easy to do anti-AI content. You don't have to do any effort or analysis or investigation. You can just literally say words off a meme, dude.
Over 500 locations in the United States. The aim was to reduce mistakes and speed up orders. But in some cases, AI delivered just the opposite. Like this frustrated customer.
And what will you drink with that? Oh my God. I want a large Mountain Dew. And your drink?
McDonald's drive-thrus also tried AI, but decided to scrap it because it was too unreliable. One person had bacon added
to right there in the headline, it says, for now, right? Not permanently, for now.
AI, but decided to scrap it because it was too unreliable. One person had bacon added to their ice cream in error, and
in error or a gift?
Another had hundreds of dollars worth of chicken nuggets mistakenly added to their order. As for Taco Bell, the fiasco has caused them to rethink their use of AI. Their Chief Technology Officer, Dane Matthews, told the Wall Street Journal in regards to deploying the voice AI system, quote, "Sometimes it lets me down, but sometimes it really surprises me," end quote. And what he said is the very crux of consumer generative AI today. It works most of the time, but about a few % of the time, it just gets things wrong.
About a few percent of the time. A human being wrote that. A human being wrote about a few percent of the time it gets things wrong.
But where does this all lead?
What is this? Shit.
A recent MIT report found that after surveying 150 business leaders and 350 employees, just 5% of integrated
I can't. I have like this is just like the reason I talk about AI is that I was supposed to be getting away from dealing with the arguments of conservatives where they just keep saying the same shit over and over and over again regardless of how many times you debunk it. And here we are.
AI pilots are extracting millions in value, while the vast majority remain stuck with no
some tech nerd, Stellar Wingman, and like there was an effort at one point in time to try and change it, including we tried to change it in our own usage to confabulation, which would technically be more accurate, and it just didn't stick. Hallucinating is out of the barn, down the street. It's too late. AI hallucinates.
measurable profit and loss impact. In other words, AI implementation fails in 95% of the cases. The market was spooked by
AI implementation failed in 95% of the cases that were measured by this study. When you actually look into all of that, you find out that it's not necessarily representative. There's a bunch of issues, including the fact that the study was partly done by a company that offers AI implementations. It's a thing.
these findings and shares in NVIDIA, the $4 trillion
And that's the other thing. What about the fact that 5% of them were profitable?
company whose chips power the AI boom dropped by 3.5%, while Palantir fell by 9% off the back of the news. It all sounds pretty heavy, but
it sounds pretty heavy. So let's do the thing that we do. And again, I'm no fan of Palantir. I hate it. I hate it muchly. I hate it bigly. But here's the 6 month on Palantir. Line go up, dude. Right? I think it's somewhere maybe in here that was released or some shit, you know? It lost a little bit, but line does go up. The bubble is not bursting. Get over yourself. Stop lying to people.
this was just a reaction to the headline, because as you dig deeper into what was actually said in the report, the picture isn't as clear-cut as AI simply failing everywhere. A few episodes ago, I talked about the current crisis with new graduate jobs. A large part of that was the AI threat. It's true and happening in some entry-level jobs, especially in the creative fields. I did caveat in that episode that current AI systems still get a lot wrong, but will improve in the future. But today, let's explore that fact a bit more deeply. What if generative consumer AI continues to underperform in businesses for years to come? In this episode, we'll look at how AI is actually performing.
What if the worst case scenario? Then will AI be good?
Once put into the position of taking people's jobs. To summarize the sentiment of this episode, it's basically this. Consumer generative AI will revolutionize global productivity eventually, but as for now, it's possibly in a bubble.
$16,000 likes 5 million subscribers. I love this shit.
You are watching Cold Fusion TV.
So first thing, let's lay it out straight. AI has some legitimate use cases and works well in non-critical areas.
Define the legitimate use cases, please and thank you.
That don't require 100% precision. Robots, live translation, and even some prototype website builders like Lovable are some examples. But the sentiment is clear. Most people online find it annoying. But that aside,
most people online find the AI annoying? Source?
there's a fundamental problem with current generative AI. Let me explain. You see, everything we call artificial intelligence.
Oh, fucking Dan TM said AI sucks. So, it's deep. It's deep.
Intelligence today was built on the findings of a 2017 paper from Google. That paper provided a way for AI to focus on different parts of an input sequence simultaneously and determine the relevance of each word to every other word. This innovation, called a transformer neural network, allowed researchers, computer scientists, and later companies to change the world. But herein lies the fundamental problem. With this method of transformer neural networks, it turns out by determining the relevance of each word and predicting the next word, it just makes up stuff. Essentially.
And if you actually look into that, what we've found out is that that's our fault. The way that we train the AIs with reinforcement learning, because we award them points for an answer, right? They get points for a correct answer, right? And they don't get points for an incorrect answer, and they don't get points for saying that they don't know. So to the AI, right? This is the concept of consequences. To the AI, there is no difference between saying that it doesn't know something and saying something that's made up. Well, sounds plausible, right? And because of that, we have incentivized the AI to hallucinate bullshit on occasion, right? Some AIs more than others. That's the problem.
It doesn't know what it's saying. We call this problem hallucinations, and it has real-world consequences. Picture this. You're a business that decided to replace its staff with AI to write.
Also, whenever anybody says, picture this, it's picture this. I'm a bag of dicks. Put me to your lips. From Nobody Move, Nobody Get Hurt.
Write up patient documents, fill in patient information, summarize meetings, or do some basic scheduling. But as time goes on, to your horror, you realize that the AI system makes up 10% of everything that it delivers. But the real problem is, you don't know what it's made up and you don't know what's accurate. So you or your staff manually have to go back and check everything. This ends up just being extra work for the remaining staff and ultimately is a waste of time. It sounds stupid, but this is exactly what's happening. Now, the following are Reddit comments taken from those in the workforce.
Here we go. Here we go. Because I know when I want peer-reviewed data, like quality data suitable for making conclusions off of, I go to Reddit.
Who had to take the brunt of upper management thinking that blindly implementing AI was a good idea. Quote, "My company paid for some AI scheduling software a few months ago, thinking that it could free up the accounts team so that they could continue their hiring freeze in that department.
And I believe you.
Now the accounts
This is my believing face.
team is having to do extra work making sure the program isn't messing everything up. Not to mention our production team that never had to worry about schedules is double/triple checking everything. They're finally scrapping it for some basic scheduling software. And same experience here. Products sold and demonstrated to be a lifesaver Ultimately, the staff that used to do the work spend all their time making sure the AI doesn't screw up and help train it. Also, working in a medical/clinical setting, we really don't trust the new file sorting and labeling system. Names, date of birth, insurance data has to be perfect. AI is less than that. It fails at gathering proper demographic information and assigning relevant tasks. Sometimes it thinks the doctor is the patient or doesn't know where the document was faxed from, etc. And yet another user states that AI was good at taking notes from Zoom meetings, but would make up 5 to 20% of the content, even
again. Like if we're doing anecdotes as evidence, I have my friend who uses a tool.
My circuitry's 12 years out of date. I can't keep up with today's high-speed, top-of-the-line kids.
Jaeger, thank you for gifting 3 months of a tier 1 sub to Anti-War Machine. My friend fucking uses Fathom, his company uses Fathom with Zoom, and it's right 100% of the time. So if that's something we can do, if we can use anecdotes as evidence, well, counterpoint.
when hand-fed the transcripts of the meeting. Those who looked over the AI-generated summary realized that some of what was written wasn't even said. All of these disasters make sense. LLMs predict the next word statistically, but they'll never tell you when it doesn't know the answer or if it can't understand something. There's many such stories of company regrets after rushing into half-baked AI solutions. A report
there are many stories, yes,
suggests that 55% of companies regret replacing people with AI. This bank, for example, who fired staff to install an AI chatbot that was so bad they begged for their old humans back. And take the example of Klarna. 2 years ago, they implemented a hiring
again, this is misunderstanding what Klarna did.
Freeze and began to replace their human staff with AI. By 2024, their headcount had fallen from 3,800 to 2,000. But lo and behold, their customers wanted to speak to actual humans. Klarna said that
their clients wanted actual humans for their customers to speak with, right? Not whether or not the AI could do the job, not whether or not it did a good job. Humans are predisposed to want to agent, customer service, actual human.
AI chatbots perform the work of 800 employees, but the company admits that their service quality and customer satisfaction have dropped, and they lament that human interaction is still needed. On replacing people with AI, the publication Fortune notes, quote, "Not only is it short-sighted, it's fundamentally bad business. The companies cutting people today in the name of AI will be the ones playing catch-up tomorrow. There's no doubt that AI is excellent at doing more with less. It speeds up processes, cuts down repetitive work, and buys back time. But AI on its own cannot create the next generation of products and services." End quote. So on Cold Fusion, we try to be thorough here.
No, you do not. You do not. Most of my interactions with any sort of AI chatbot for a customer service purpose, I have had a good experience. The only time that I didn't have a good experience is when I had already done all the things that the chatbot was asking me to do, and it hadn't solved my problem, and I was just going around in circles. So I wanted to speak to a human, and I spoke to 2 humans, and both of them fucked up my situation even worse than the chatbot did, which did nothing, right? We went from doing nothing to making my situation worse. And then I finally talked to a tier 2 person who says, we'll get someone out there, we'll roll a truck on that tomorrow. And then it turned out that I was right, and there was in fact an outage in my area, and that was the fucking problem with my internet.
It has to be said that all of these failures aren't the full story. There are indeed companies that are extremely successful at using artificial intelligence. Now, even though the MIT paper said that 95% of companies who implemented generative AI failed in said implementation, the same MIT paper states, quote, "Some large companies, pilots, and younger startups are really excelling with generative AI. They mean startups led by 19 or 20-year-olds. They, quote, have seen revenues jump from zero
ageism
to 20 million in a year. It's because they pick one pain point, execute it well, and partner smartly with companies who use their tools," end quote. So how companies adopt AI is crucial.
No shit. You mean that how you adopt the new technology is crucial to its implementation and success? Fucking mind-blowing.
For example, purchasing AI tools from specialized vendors and building partnerships succeed 67% of the time, while internal builds succeed only 1/3 as often. This goes to show that you can't just slap AI everywhere and expect it to work. It needs thought in its implementation, and also depends on the specificity of the AI tools in question. But in the grand scheme of things, it's still early days for AI, and it'll be naive to think that it'll stay the same forever. All it would take is another groundbreaking paper, a new underlying neural network architecture, and everything could change again. This could mean another giant leap forward that none of us are expecting. But in the meantime, it's uncomfortable territory. So what happens?
Now we're just going to do the thing where people misunderstand the .com bubble in service of being anti-AI.
Like the steam engine which sparked the Industrial Revolution of the late 1700s, the internet is changing everything it touches. And at the cutting edge of the revolution...
I love Equilibrium. I think I fucking love it. That was such a great movie. It was, you know, it's Fahrenheit 451, right? But like with gun kata, and gun kata was fucking, it was so good, and Christian Bale was good doing the gun kata.
Is Wall Street.
In the dot-com bubble during the mid-90s, everyone who simply put a .com at the end of their company name saw massive valuations because investors who didn't understand the technology saw them as the future. In reality, these companies had no solid way of making a profit or didn't even have a business plan.
Implementation.
When the broader market realized that it was all a smokescreen,
Internet may be just a passing fad as millions give up on it. And scene. Oh.
The sector crashed. Most companies went out of business, and only a handful made it out and are giants today. So let's compare that to the AI wave of today. The long-awaited release of ChatGPT 5 was a disappointment, and many users even thought the previous version was better, and this caused OpenAI to scramble. In addition, the company was also caught blatantly fudging the performance numbers in some very strange graphs. Incremental rather than revolutionary was the tone. Soon, Meta would announce that it's downsizing its AI division, and this comes amongst a growing chorus of analysts saying that AI is heading towards, if not, is already in a bubble. And next, we have the massive valuations and spending. NVIDIA H100s, the GPUs that power the artificial intelligence boom, are about $30,000 to $40,000 each. Google has 26,000 of them, and they've managed to create AlphaFold, Gemini, VO3, and more. But Meta, on the other hand, has 600,000 NVIDIA H100s. And while they do have the open source Llama LLM, it isn't discovering new science like Google's AlphaFold for 23 times the compute.
Implementation.
And to give you an idea of how extreme this is all getting, AI itself has caused a 4% increase in electricity use in the US. Morgan Stanley states that data center investment will reach $3 trillion over the next 3 years in preparation for AI use, and of course, that's heavily fueled by debt. The belief is that AI will cut costs by 40%, and that should add $16 trillion to the S&P. But as we've just seen at the beginning of this episode, according to that MIT study, that could be very unrealistic.
Like, again, fuck SoftBank. I'm just saying, you're being disingenuous.
So this could be the future if AI doesn't improve massively soon. Number 1. Business executives and business owners will get frustrated with hallucinations, useless solutions, bad code, and a very poor return on investment.
Of course they would. If we didn't have ways of mitigating all those fucking things today.
Number 2. A lot of the AI gurus like Sam Altman will have to admit that artificial general intelligence isn't going to be achieved by LLMs, and they're essentially a dead end. Number 3.
Are they? Maybe? Like, I'm not saying that they are the pathway, right? I've never said that they are the pathway. I've always felt that they are the conversational interface between human beings and the computer. They're just one aspect of artificial intelligence, and there could be an entirely different paradigm that's required and that facilitates AGI, but
the general populace begins to get sick of LLMs, and we're already seeing it. The absolute flood of AI slop, the hallucinations, AI agreeing with what users say, sometimes driving them insane. Number 4. In seeing this, the venture capital finally dries up, and LLMs become just too expensive to justify, unless there's a massive increase in efficiency.
The cost to run OpenAI's data centers, all the pipes and guts and things that like keep AI running, is
the pipes and guts and things.
It's about $40 billion a year. Their revenues right now are only like 15 to 20 billion.
And what were they last year? And what were they the year before?
And finally, number 5. After a long winter, new implementations come around that truly live up to the hype promised by the first wave. So just like the dot-com bubble, there's going to be a few winners that rise from the ashes. But if
we went from postulating a thing that could happen to saying it will happen,
or when it crashes, from here, we see the true artificial intelligence companies that last the distance.
Hey, it's my friends with the Gartner hype cycle, which is actually not good. And like what is accurate 4% of the time, I think or 7%, something like that, and is not actually a predictive model, and you can't actually determine where you are in the Gartner hype cycle while you're in the Gartner hype cycle, almost like it's a useless marketing tool.
So to finish off this episode, let me end with this.
Oh, this episode is finished, my dude.
I've talked about this many times in my older episodes, but take a look at this diagram. It's called the...
Look at this fucking graph. Every time I do, it makes me laugh. What up, Bug Grader?
Gartner hype cycle, and it describes the typical progression of the infiltration of new technologies into society. So where do you think we are?
And I just love it. Visibility in time. No increments, no nothing. Just
Look at this chart. Let's bring it up.
What am I looking at here?
I don't know, but it doesn't look good.
That looks bad.
Yeah, it's probably bad.
probably bad. It's just, this is not a graph. This is an art project.
The technology trigger, the peak of inflated expectations, the trough of disillusionment, the slope of enlightenment, or the plateau of productivity? Feel free to comment down below.
Go fuck you. Or should I just link the Charlie Day fucking song?
So where to from here? Well, Sam Altman and all the other AI leaders should focus their efforts on fixing the hallucinations. Once again, a different neural network architecture could be discovered, one that fixes hallucinations.
We played it. Were you not here? The Charlie Day song? I'll do it again.
There is a spider, spider. Deep in my soul. He's been here for years. He just won't let go. He's laying around. He's got a mean bite. Now he's ready to fight. And stand up for what he knows.
I don't need your trophies or your gold. I just want to tell you all, go fuck yourself. It do be like that sometimes.
Or perhaps it could just be fixed manually. Either way, ushering in a new boom. But that all being said, and that's the funny thing about AI, the point is, with AI, nobody knows the future. So what do you guys think? Do you think we're in a bubble and a crash is imminent? Or do you think the next AI innovation is just around the corner? Now, if you've been recently hired by a company or just simply need to brush up on your knowledge, today's sponsor is perfect for you.
All right, we're going to finish up with new fire ship.
Benjamin Franklin once said, "Lost time is never found again." As programmers, we have the unique ability to prevent lost time through the power of automation. Like when your Gen Z boss in a mini tells you to put a TPS report on her desk by 5 p.m.
Gen Z boss in a mini!
We don't do it, man.
Have I ever read the Bible? I have read parts of the Bible. And then I attempted to read the Bible from cover to cover and bailed in some part in Genesis. But yes, there's a lot of people. We talked about this the other day about how there's a certain segment of conspiracy theorists who believe that AI is the Antichrist. Crazy Chicken Head. Is that Hassan's cousin? And you are banned in Hassan's chat. I can't imagine why. Do you have a particular fixation? Do you love you some Hassan? Big body, tiny head. Stupid, sexy Hassan.
manually. Instead, we build highly sophisticated automation workflows that look like this. Because why spend 1 hour doing something when you can spend 10 hours failing to automate it? Hell,
I don't know what that is.
Some people even pay $500 per month for tools like Zapier to do all the heavy lifting for them. In fact, that's exactly what this guy was doing until he said, screw it, I'm building my own Zapier from scratch. The end result was a platform called N8N, which is an open source, self-hostable automation tool. And no, it's not the sponsor of this video, it's just a truly awesome project that you need to know about, and will change the way you think about automating all the boring work you do in life. In today's video, we'll look at some crazy ways you can use it, then deploy our own.
That's the thing. Trolls come in here and try to pop off, and like we've got members of the community like Tenacious Liege and Anti-War Machine, right? It's like you gotta step your game up, right? Like my cousins in this chat are fucking are just operating on an entirely other different level than your little troll bullshit.
Private automation system on a Linux VPS. It is September 29th, 2025, and you're watching the Code Report. But first of all, what is N8N? Well, if you know what Zapier is, the easiest way to think about it is like the free and open source alternative to Zapier. It's a tool that allows you to take some input trigger, like a website form submission, a database write, a voice command, a GitHub issue, etc., then take the data from that event and run it through a pipeline of steps that might include third-party apps or your own code. There are literally hundreds of different examples of things you can do. Like if you're a developer, you might run a workflow that triggers on a GitHub PR merge, which goes on to build a Docker image and then notify everybody on Discord. If you're a YouTuber, you might use it to automatically share your content on different social media platforms every time you upload a video. If you're into IoT, you could run a workflow that automatically sounds an alarm when the smart camera detects law enforcement around your compound. Or if you're a degenerate gambler, you
if you're asking about what this is about, it's about N8N. Digital.
could use it to automatically scrape football stats. Then
that's the thing, Raza, is you told us when you came in many moons ago that you were a troll, right? and you just stuck around, right? Like, because this is primo fucking content. And, it's like,
use AI to suggest which bets you should place next week. The possibilities are endless, but the crazy thing is that all this can be accomplished without writing a single line of code. Instead, you diagram everything in a flowchart style editor that makes the logic so clear that any non-technical person can approach it. And what's even more crazy is that you can unlock all this power in 5 seconds by simply running npx n8n from your terminal right now. After a few seconds, that'll bring up this beautiful UI where you can start building automation workflows. A UI that was built with Vue.js, by the way. We can play around with it on localhost, but if you're serious, you'll want an actual server to host it. This is a serious channel, so today we'll host it for just a few bucks per month on Hostinger, the sponsor of today's video. They're famous for providing Linux-based virtual private servers to host all of your apps without...
That's how you do an ad. And holy shit. You did a whole bunch of ad. All right, make it quick.
Without needing big cloud providers. And it's a great place to launch our own private N8N app. And we can do that by selecting a new VPS and a region to host it in. From there, we could use a base Linux system and manually install N8N, but a much easier approach is to use their pre-built template. It runs Ubuntu as the operating system with N8N ready to go out of the box. Choose a
for all the Linux frogs in the audience.
Password, then choose a plan for just $5 a month. And if you're too poor to afford that, also use the code FIRESHIP to save even more money. A few minutes later, we now have access to manage our VPS on the dashboard. We could SSH into the server to manage it, but there's no need. We can just click on this button to go directly to N8N. Once you get here, you might be wondering what you do next. In my opinion, the first thing you'll want to check out are the templates. Like this one will generate AI viral videos with Nano Banana and VO3, and then share everything on social media with Platato. The actual workflows are just JSON based.
Platato. Y'all are adorable.
Or because we now have an N8N instance deployed, we can import this template directly into our own project. This one's a bit too crazy for me, so let's build a new one from scratch. On the dashboard, we have the option here to create a new node, and the first type of node you'll create is some type of trigger. It could be triggered manually or triggered on a schedule, but in many cases you'll want to connect to some kind of third-party app. As you can see, there are hundreds of different third-party apps you can connect to, but in my case, I'm going to connect to Telegram, and I want it to trigger anytime my wife sends me a message through this app. Just provide the required config info and you're good to go. Then from there, we can take the data received from the trigger and do all sorts of crazy stuff with it. We could send it off to AI to be analyzed, we could trigger an action in a different app, and also handle things like conditional logic like you would with code. Let's go ahead and add an if branch right here. I know if my wife sends me this emoji that I've done something really bad. I can capture that data in this conditional statement by going to the string option and using contains. And now, whenever I get a message with that emoji, I can run some code. Most importantly, the first way to resolve a domestic dispute is to order flowers. Unfortunately, there's no built-in third-party apps that can do that as far as I know, but we can also create a node here to run any arbitrary code or hit a third-party API. I know a guy that has a flowers API, so we'll go ahead and use it to order flowers for immediate delivery. That's done, but it's not enough. We also need to write an apology letter. Now, I have no idea what I did wrong because I didn't read my wife's message, but luckily we can have AI deal with that. We'll create a new AI agent node and give it a custom prompt to have it generate an apology letter. We can even have it use data from previous points in the workflow, like my wife's message, to customize the prompt dynamically. In addition, you'll notice the AI agent node allows us to choose any custom model we want, as well as provide data for memory and tools for the model context protocol. But now that we have an apology letter, we need a way to send it to her. I could do that with a Telegram message, but I'd rather show the world what a great husband I am by tweeting it publicly on X. That's a surefire way to resolve a domestic dispute, but just in case, we'll also want to make sure to record the whole interaction on Google Sheets, as this may come in handy in future divorce proceedings. But there's so much more we could do here when it comes to running a software as a service business, and it's kind of mind-blowing that we have full control over this on a $5 VPS. Huge thanks again to Hostinger for sponsoring this video, and get your own VPS with the discount code using the link below. This has been the Code Report. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. That was educational, and some of you enjoyed that. I'm a fan of the move towards that type of visual coding, right? Like just the setting up of nodes, and you're actually going to be doing that, so that's even better. And I'm going to share that to some people that I think will enjoy that kind of thing. All right, that's going to be it for today. And I will see you in the next one. Stick around for the raid. You know how this works. I will update the schedule on or about by Thursday. I will update the schedule by Thursday. So if you're following the channel, you can check the schedule and see when we'll next be live. Or you could just turn on your notifications for this channel and get your notification that way. It's super helpful. And You know what? David just went live. We haven't rated David in a minute. So we're going to raid over to 27 Club. I hope y'all enjoyed the episode. And again, shout out to Jaeger for the gift subs. Shout out to all of you who contributed bits. Shout out to any of you who might sign up for Proton Pass or Proton Unlimited. I had fun. In the meantime, drink your water, eat some food, take your meds if you forgot, and always remember that Shuggy loves you. And so do I. Be great.